Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome friends to our small reading session over here at my humble abode. And we have here with us a renowned professor from San Diego University, Professor Ahmet Kuru. I think you can read about his biography. He's a professor of political science and has written a few books and numerous articles, published numerous articles, and he's given talk all over the world, recently to Indonesia and now to Malaysia. The most recent was to Germany, right? Yeah, the most recent was Germany, and currently in Malaysia until the 10th of January. The topic today we are going to discuss is about, can passive secularism be a middle ground between assertive secularism and Islamism? Talking about this topic, I think is very important for us because IRF has been known to promote passive secularism in a way, right? We had published before a book by Nader Hashimi that basically discussed this topic in detail, and he brought forward the idea by Alfred Stephen on these twin tolerations. And this idea, I think, I am not too sure whether Malaysians are familiar with this idea of twin tolerations, but it's basically the idea that you have citizens that tolerate the government in a way that they agree to a democratically elected government, representatives of the government, to enact laws, and they would not say that these laws you have to only follow God laws. Right, not laws made by human. So they have to tolerate that. And on the other hand, the government has to tolerate the citizens as well, and to allow them to express their conviction in their religion, in their beliefs. And that's what Alfred Stephen meant by twin tolerations. I believe that Prof. Kuru can explain better and further about this issue. But I want to tell you that this topic is not new to us. We had translated the book, and we had published and sold the books to the Malaysian audience, and I managed to get to know Prof. Kuru not recently, but it was way back in 2013. Actually, when I read his essay, his article that was published by the Brookings Doha Center, right? The topic was very interesting topic. You see, this is very interesting thing that I'm going to highlight before we start the session. The topic was about Muslim states, Muslim politics without an Islamic state. So when I read that, it came to my mind that this is what Malaysia needs. Muslim politics, but without an Islamic state. We don't need an Islamic state that basically implement Sharia, which they claim to be God's laws, but actually it was human. It was based on human endeavor to find, basically to enact the law, right? So you cannot claim to be God's laws. So like Abdullah Naim as well, he mentioned that it's impossible for us to basically to implement Sharia in the modern world. It is almost impossible. So I got to know him and through his writings, and I was very fascinated by the whole idea. And that time, it was written in 2013, and at that time, Prof. Kuru praised AKP. The whole idea was about AKP. So he was a friend of AKP. But now people label him as a Gulenist. So he's neither here nor there, and he's being attacked from all angles for being liberal, Gulenist, and from being Erdoganist, and all kind of accusations. So very interesting person that we have over here. I'm very glad you're brave to come despite what happened to Akil before, and I hope they won't arrest you right on your way back. I hope you're still safe in this country. And with this, I open for the discussion for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farooq, and you are brave enough to invite me. And thanks for this very insightful introduction. This water sound,
yeah, you can't.
I ignore. Yeah. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you really inspired me on many things. Let me briefly mention and touch upon all of them. And should I look at the camera or to you?
Yeah, camera. Yeah.
So, first of all, yes, this 2013 essay promoting the idea of Muslim politics without Islamic State, but also AKP as a model for the Arab world.
Yes.
Since the last 10 years, people criticize me.
Yeah.
The secularists or the Gulenists, they say, you were the one promoting AKP, look, you were wrong. And I say, yes, I admit I was wrong. I was wrong about AKP, I was wrong about Gulenists, I'm wrong about many things. But as a scholar of social science and a student of religion and politics, I try to learn from my mistakes and then analyze, right again, what can we do? I'm very happy to be in Malaysia. I'm going to learn about this country, its system, but also looking forward to having conversations with friends, intellectuals, and readers. Very basically, I want to start with the concept of secularism, because when I was growing up in Turkey, there was very strong assertive secular system, and as a practicing Muslim, I had difficulty, and my wife, as a woman wearing headscarf, had even deeper difficulties. That he wrote her PhD dissertation on the headscarf ban in Turkey. Then I wrote my dissertation, which became my first book, on comparative analysis of the United States, France, and Turkey, which was published in English, Secularism and State Policies Toward Religion, United States, France, and Turkey, Cambridge University Press, received some awards, translated into Turkish, but the main splash the book was in Arabic. My friends, including our common friend Nader Hashmi, told me that the term secularism or Almania in Arabic is a conversation stopper. It's very difficult for you, welcome Rashidi, to go beyond. But it was the Arab Spring time that the book read, cited, reviewed by Arab friends, intellectuals in a widespread manner that Goodreads.com, an online book review website now owned by Amazon, replaced my book's English version with the Arabic. And I asked them, why did you make Arabic the primary? They said, because there are more interest to Arabic than English. So that's the background how my criticism of French laïcité and the discussion of American and French and Turkish secularism became a debate in the Middle East. But with the Islam book in 2019, I am happy to see that the discussion was brought to Southeast Asia and so many other countries. So, very briefly, I want to touch upon certain things discussed in Malaysia in the last 10 days. Then I will move on to my presentation. First of all, I wrote the Islam book, Islam, Authoritarianism and Underdevelopment, a Global and Historical Comparison, which is by now translated to Malay with IRF, edited by Dr. Farooq. And I am thankful to all the team members and translators, especially Hashir Murshidi and the editor Dr. Farooq for this Malay translation. After Indonesian, Arabic, Persian, Dutch, Bosnian, now Malay and other languages coming inshallah. There is no imposition of liberal Islam or any type of Islam in the book. That's why I have been criticized in the United States and in Germany. I went to Berlin and Leipzig 10 months ago to discuss the book. A major critique was that the book doesn't tell what Islam is and should be. Then I told them that was my purpose. As a practicing Muslim, of course I know what Islam means to me, but I didn't impose anything to the readers. I only defend the position that for development and democracy, there should be coexistence and toleration of multiple interpretations of Islam. And at the time when Muslim ulama, Islamic scholars, had certain autonomy and independence from the political authority, there were vibrant debates of multiple interpretations. So that's the main thing as a reaction. And another question proposed to me in social media, whether I wrote, only based on Western sources. So anyone who look at the bibliography of the book will see that about 1,000 books and articles in different languages referring to original sources of such Islamic scholars as Ghazali, Mawardi, Ibn Taymiyyah, and references to Ibn Khaldun, Ibn Rushd, so and so forth, from history to present. It is an attempt to analyze Islamic and Muslim political thought, of course, in a global perspective. So, I don't have any Western agenda, and when I was in Tokyo making a presentation, a Japanese professor said, I protest you because you are promoting American agenda of democracy in the Middle East. And I taught him, oh, is there such American projection? Because United States is not promoting democracy in the Middle East. US has clear foreign policy interests, defending the state of Israel, stable oil supply, and avoiding Islamic revolutions or some types of terrorism. There is no democracy agenda. And now, we in the United States try to criticize American foreign policy, especially about the rights of Palestinians, how Israel bombing them, and then there should be ways of influencing American politics in America to be more protective of the rights and liberties of Palestinians. So this is my general background about myself, the critics to me. Now the presentation following the title. First of all, the concept of passive secularism basically refers to a system where the state tries to be neutral when it comes to religious or secular symbols, ways of life. The state does not impose a particular ideology or religion to its citizens. In the American system, I have a very deep historical analysis to show how passive secularism emerge, transform, and evolve. Of course, it started in a very problematic manner where there was a non-denominational Protestant hegemony in American public life. Catholics were discriminated in the 19th century. Jews were discriminated. Then in the early 20th century, American secularism became more inclusive and included Catholics and Jews, but still discriminate many groups such as Mormons. Now, American secularism has been challenged to be more inclusive by integrating American Muslims. Now we have 3 Congress people in US Congress. Hopefully we'll have a senator. When there is a Supreme Court member, there will be more Muslim influence for the inclusiveness of this. But the basic idea, in an abstract sense, requires that the state avoids imposition. And it is different from the alternative. The alternative is assertive secularism. The best example is the French laïcité. So according to French laïcité, secularism is not a neutral ground. It is a comprehensive doctrine, it's an ideology that competes with religions, that try to shape people's way of life, that brings restrictions on the people. And you can see the difference when you look at John Locke, which inspired American secularism, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the French philosopher. In his famous book, Contrat Social or Social Contract, Rousseau says one needs to be forced to be free. So we can force individuals to be free. That's the basis of laïcité. So recently French television 24 asked me to give an interview to criticize or discuss Macron, President Macron, and his new law, where I said the problems of the French laïcité is that it's too much top-down, trying to control, try to impose restrictions, and also disregard the socioeconomic complexity of problems. Because in America now, especially after the Black Lives Matter movements, there is now more emphasis on racial inequality. Whereas in the French case, they see the certain problems only in the religious sense, and they say that we have an Islam problem. I am telling them, no, you have a racial discrimination problem. Most Muslims in France are African, either North Africa or coming from Sub-Saharan Africa, and they have problems in integration, unemployment, discrimination. Therefore, you should not obsess with religion as if it is the problem. So this analysis in the early 2000s helped me to discuss Turkey. At that time, as my friend Dr. Faruk mentioned, I was doing postdoc at Columbia University with Alfred Stepan, and we were analyzing 3 Muslim majority democracies in non-Arab world: Indonesia, Turkey, Senegal. And we invited the architect of a new constitution of Turkey. He was a constitutional law professor. Tayyip Erdogan at that time asked this professor to draft a new constitution. Okay. He came to New York, gave a conference, read my book, came back to Turkey, gave an interview, and he said, we are going to draft a new constitution. It will be based on passive secularism. and a Turkish American young scholar, I was young at that time, that he coined the term passive secularism. Oh my God, he and I was attacked more than attack on me coming to Malaysia in Facebook. And they say this is an American project.
Yeah.
And then I try to defend myself. I give interviews. Then my mother called my aunt saying that, did you read Ahmet's interview? She said, yes. What is your reaction? I'm afraid Ahmet is going to bring Sharia to this country. So even my relatives think that I'm trying to destroy secularism to bring Sharia. I didn't understand, because it's very different logic. Then in a major newspaper in Turkey, they published my photo, made in USA, which is worse than liberals in Turkey. And then there was a column I remember saying that passive secularism is like Diet Coke. So this Kuru guy, so Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola, they first produced Diet Coke, then Zero Coke. And he is producing passive secularism. The next step, zero secularism, Sharia. So very difficult at the time to defend. But I was expecting with the AKP, Turkey moved from French assertive secularism to more religious friendly and democratic passive secularism. And AKP used me. They officially, when I visited their party, the vice president of the country, the party, Erdogan's vice chairperson, she told me that we made copies of your article when you said AKP is not against secularism, AKP against French laicity or assertive secularism. Foreign visitors came and asked, you are against secularism, and we give your article to them. No, we are not against, look. And when the Turkish Constitutional Court tried to shut down AKP, I wrote a letter and then saying that we had this conference on constitution, it has nothing to do with Sharia, etc. Anyhow, at the time, I defended them. That's what I thought it was right. And this concept of secularism, therefore, a very complex one. But at the bottom line, to wrap up my presentation, when I engaged with the literature on secularism, I saw many myths. There's so many misunderstandings. One misunderstanding is by two scholars who are very well known. I engage with them in both of my books, Samuel Huntington and Bernard Lewis. So in America, these are very influential people. After 9/11, George Bush said, I need to understand what's going on. And they say, according to some reports, we are going to bring Bernard Lewis to White House to tell you what is wrong, what is going on in the Middle East. And Huntington, of course, was the author of Clash of Civilizations. And tomorrow we will have an event organized by, again, IRFI and Lester Hikmeh, where we will discuss democracy, authoritarianism, and civilization. So I am postponing the debate about Clash of Civilization to tomorrow's event. But today I want to briefly say that these two, Bernard Lewis and Huntington, and in fact Bernard Lewis was the teacher of Huntington in this sense, because Huntington was not knowledgeable about Islam. He learned certain things, even the concept of Clash of Civilization, from Lewis. And Lewis said, and Huntington repeat, that in the Muslim world the main problem is the absence of secularism. There's only one secular country, Turkey, and that's the only democracy. But everything wrong. First of all, Turkey is not the only secular state in the Muslim world. There are 50 Muslim majority countries. 23 are secular states. 13 of them are saying in the constitution, this is a secular state. And in the world, there are only 20 or so countries saying in the constitution, 13 of them are Muslim majority. When I said that, people question me, how do you know? Did you learn all the languages? I said that. I look at all the constitution, learn the name, Almaniya, secular, Ilmi, and then laik, and then some use Bosnia and Albania use Serbian versions, Bosnian versions. I list them, all of them. In the Islam book too, you can see the table of secular states. Even a Pakistani imam make a video and say, the Pakistani bourgeoisie, you like this book, but look, you blame us ulama. But Kuru says 23 of the time secular, why are you blaming us? So ulama also use this book as a reference to defend themselves. So Huntington and Lewis are wrong because about half of Muslim countries are secular constitution, but still they are authoritarian. Even Turkey under the assertive secularist regime was at best a problematic democracy. It has many problems. So in this regard, democracy and authoritarianism issue cannot be simplified as, oh, you need secularism if you don't, Muslim countries are authoritarian because they are not secular. No, China, Russia, many of them are authoritarian because secularism, if in the assertive form, very difficult to promote freedoms. So then the idea that the Muslim world is all Islamic except Turkey is wrong. Another major myth I try to challenge in both of my books is that Islam rejects religion-state separation. Christianity always promote religion-state separation because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they don't say ﷺ, but we are Muslim. Many Christians and some Muslims say this, was a political leader, a state ruler, but Jesus was not, and Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, render unto God what is God.
Yeah.
In order to demystify this, I analyzed the history of both Islam and Christianity. To make very short, and this is the conclusion of my presentation. In Christianity, until the 11th century, there was no separation. Vatican, the Western Christianity, had popes appointed, even at the bishops' level, appointed by the Holy Roman emperors and German kings, until the 11th century. Then came Pope Gregory, who established the so-called Gregorian Revolution. It's called 11th century revolution. And he said, popes from now on will be elected by the College of Cardinals in Vatican. Henry, the German king, refused to accept that and declared a war and came to Vatican with armies. The Pope declared Henry non-Christian twice. It took 75 years for the Holy Roman Empire and the Vatican to fight, and finally neither side defeat the others, and then the separation of church and state started to be institutionalized in Western Christianity. In Eastern Christianity, there never was a separation. That's why today Orthodox Church Patriarch Kirill is a good ally of Putin in Russia. And under the Byzantine Empire, Church regarded the Byzantine Emperor as their head. And in Western Christianity, Catholicism and Protestantism, there is constantly backlash. The French, the war between two Frances. Even today in the United States, we have a problem with evangelicals who try to bring conservative forces and establish a clergy-state alliance in America. Therefore, the idea that Jesus says something, that's why Christians always separate, this is wrong. And in the Islamic history, when you look at the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th centuries, there was a very strong principal distance between ulama and the state. That started after the Siffin and Jamal civil wars. The ulama became disenchanted by the political authority. They say that the Umayyad leaders except Umar bin Abdulaziz are corrupt. Abbasi leaders are corrupt too. Therefore, they refuse to obey them. And you know the anecdote about Abu Hanifa, when Abbasi Caliph asked him to be the qadi, judge. Abu Hanifa says, no. The Caliph says, give me a reason. He said, I am not qualified. The Caliph became angry. You are the most qualified. You are lying. Then Abu Hanifa says, a liar can never be a judge. Then he was put in prison, poisoned to death. It wasn't simply Abu Hanifa. Imam Shafi stood up against the authority. He was chained and arrested. Imam Malik said no, they beat and broke his leg. Ahmet bin Hanbal said no, they put him in jail. He was almost executed. The Shia ulama clearly against Umayyad and Abbasis. And it wasn't simply anecdote of big names, but according to one numerical analysis, out of 3,900 ulama from the 8th to mid-11th centuries, only 9% accept to be officer. 91% had various jobs, receiving public funding, not receiving public funding, having private, mostly commercial resources. They were traders. Ahmed bin Hanbal worked in a textile sector. Abu Hanifa was a silk merchant. So, they only brought me the example of Abu Yusuf. Of course, there were exceptions. And many people, including Imam Ghazali in Ihya Ulumuddin, criticized Abu Yusuf. And some people say that Abu Yusuf accepted judgeship with the permission of Abu Hanifa. No, Abu Hanifa was dead at that time. How can you say such misinformation? Abu Hanifa died 15 or so years before Abu Yusuf accepted the judgeship. So you may be surprised that why I pay so much attention to these details, because they came these details to criticize a very well-known fact that ulama said a good scholar should be avoiding politics, should have autonomy. And when they do have autonomy, they defend moral principles. They are able to criticize corruption. That's why I am suggesting in the book that the Muslim Golden Age was a result of certain autonomy between political, religious, economic, and scholarly fields. When you mix them, you have injustice, you have corruption. This is not a secularist idea coming from the West. No. This is something Muslim experience. Maybe the West learn from the Muslim experience if they study Muslim history sufficiently, appropriately. And therefore, I see a very good connection between the two books. Yes, I was too optimistic about Turkey in the first book, but the conceptions I still defend when I give interview to Turkish media, saying that I am still behind my idea of religious-friendly secularism as a solution. There is a very deep polarization in Turkey between Islamists and secularists, and we need to find a middle ground like Wasatiyya or Sirat al-Mustaqim. And this New Islam book showed that the Muslim history was much more complex than it was depicted by people like Bernard Lewis, Samuel Huntington, and it has information and data that would surprise some Islamists too. And therefore, from an analytical point of view, that's the book brings on the table. But it gives credit to alternative views. And of course, I'm looking forward to having a conversation after the publication of the Malay edition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof, for the enlightening talk. I guess we can gather some ideas about what basically drove you to write this particular book. And I think there was a very important thing that you talk about, the whole idea of this in your initial article on this Muslim politics without Islamic State. And I think that you were trying to refer to, to give advice to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and a few other Islamist parties everywhere, especially in the Middle East, that you can have Muslim politics without an Islamic State. And I think this whole idea is noble, and of course it has been misconstrued and misunderstood. And as you are aware that you are now in a no man's land, neither here nor there, being accused of being an enemy on one side and an enemy on the other side as well. So I think with that, I'd like to open to the floor for discussion. If you have any questions, and please introduce your name and just forward your question to Prof. Thank you. Nyoza? Yeah, come get you. I think you need the mic. Okay,
Hi, my name is Navid. I'm just wondering whether Muslim in general wants to be compared to Muslim non-Muslim countries like they are not governed by authorities, and what I'm saying that it's something possible that maybe the Muslim government realize.
So the question is it possible to see a Muslim society ruled by non-Muslims?
Not to say by non-Muslim, but without a religious authority to actually govern themselves. Because it's already happening in, if Muslim is living in the United States, we don't bother with Sharia laws, like here in Malaysia, people want to have a Sharia law or all kind of religious edicts, from the religious authorities. And this is something that we need to tell the Muslims, it's already happening.
Yeah.
It's not something that we need. We need to look beyond that.
Thank you. This is a very complex question. I think it's now a global debate, because now I'm trying to write a new book, if this one allows me to do, and if I don't travel that much. But I think these discussions will enrich my new book. I was in Morocco and Bosnia this summer, then also had the chance to talk Muslim minorities in Netherlands and Belgium, and everywhere there is the discussion about religion and politics. And my new book will look at the cases of US, where Trump trying to bring religion and politics, Israel, where Netanyahu tries to bring religion and politics, India, where Modi doing, Russia, Putin doing. And this is the topic of our panel on Tuesday in the Islamic University of Malaysia. But in the Muslim context too, that's one of the biggest questions. So the idea of Islamic reform started in the 19th century in the modern sense, and the two centers were Istanbul and Cairo. In Istanbul, it was both the Ottoman ruler and ruling class say we need reform after 1939. They abolished Janissaries, they sideline ulama, they open European style institutions. So the idea of redesigning religion and politics is not a new idea. The Ottomans did it in 19th century, and there was no very strong ulama backlash, because ulama realized that the reform is necessary, inevitable. In Egypt, Cairo, Muhammad Ali Pasha did very similarly, abolish the Mamluks, sideline the ulama, send students to Paris and European cities, because at that time there already was a very big gap of literacy between the Muslims and Europe. There was a reversal, because between 8th and 12th centuries, Muslims had paper factories in every major cities. They learned how to produce paper. They had largest libraries of the world in Cairo, Baghdad, Cordoba, Damascus, whereas Europe had only 500 books, where Muslims had hundreds of thousands. Europe didn't produce paper until the 13th century. 500 years they didn't produce paper because they didn't have economic and intellectual capacity. But later on we have a reversal, and this time Europe had printing, publishing, literacy, and Muslim world lagged behind on these issues. The 19th century Ottomans elite said we need reform. So this was top-down but also bottom-up thinkers in Istanbul like Namık Kemal and others, and in Cairo Muhammad Abduh and other reformists. And the debate of reforming the LSR, for example, when Abduh proposed a new curriculum for LSR, he referred to Ibn Khaldun Muqaddimah, very mainstream book, in addition to some writings of Mu'tazili. And then LSR Sheikh said, we will not let to turn this holy institution into European-style university. But look, today LSR is a university too. So some reforms cannot stop. Referring directly to your question, Muslim countries initially had very secular trends, starting with Mustafa Kemal Atatürk of Turkey, then Iranian Shah, then Amanullah Shah of Afghanistan, then Jamal Abdel Nasser in Egypt, Habib Bourguiba in Tunisia, Baas Party regime in Syria, Iraq, very secular, from 1923 to 1979. After 1979, there emerged a new trend, Islamist trend, Islamization everywhere, to different degrees. That's why in my table, 50 Muslim majority countries show a mixture of secular regimes, regimes where constitution referred to Sharia, including Egypt, and some mixed regimes. What is the best way? I don't know. Every country is supposed to find, based on its particular features and characteristics. And there is no Western type either. In the so-called West, religion, politics, relations are very complex and diverse. For example, in terms of teaching students religion, there are only 2 Western countries where there is no public school education on religion, United States and France. In terms of wall of separation between public money and religious institution, there is only one country, United States. Because in France, government provide maintenance of churches built before 1905. Government pays salaries of the chaplains in public schools. 25% of students attend Catholic church, and government provides teachers salaries of mosque. Government provides funding to the region of Alsace-Lorraine. There are so many exceptions. That's why some people call the French system catholique plus secular. So it's very complex. Germany, Britain, they're all different. So therefore, I cannot simply answer your complex question. Every country, every society will find a way, but we can follow some principles, and we have to agree on principles. Are we really for example, freedom? Is this something we value? Do we really want Muslims contribute to science? Do we really want more Muslims receive Nobel Prize? These are very basic questions, and then we have to answer the questions, right? So they try to delegitimize my book, picking up one sentence which says that certain epistemologies promote anti-intellectualism. So, are you really pro-intellectual If you are anti-intellectual, say it clearly. Don't and be proud of being anti-intellectual. But how can you claim to be pro-science and still attack intellectuals and say, I am not anti-intellectual? No. Be consistent. Be honest. So that's what we have to do in the Muslim world. Let me conclude with very long answer, sorry, but one example. When Muslims are asked, why don't you produce great philosophers? They say, oh, we have Farabi, Ibn Sina, Razi. Then the question, if these guys live today, they will write freely? So be consistent.
Yeah. Thank you, Ahmet. Thank you for your answer. Anyone else? Or I have a question to you. Okay, this is regarding what you said just now about this printing press, because I think this is a very important topic.
Yeah.
I think in your book you wrote about the resistance of the Muslims, especially the Turkish sultans at that time, against printing press. And we know that the spread of Protestantism was because of printing press. I think when Martin Luther, he basically nailed his 95 theses on this church, the door of a church, it was via printing press that spread his voice throughout Europe at that time and turned half of Europe into Protestant. The issue is, why do you think was there a resistance by the sultans? Before you answer that, I want to say that according to Akil in his book Islam Without Extremes, he said that the resistance was because a very powerful group of scribes, those people who basically write the Quran and the text of the books of the Kitab and everything, and because of these people think that their job would be kind of affected if there's this advent of printing press, then they try to suppress it. So what's your opinion on it, on this printing press issue? Because I guess that people have been debating about this as well. Yeah.
So, thanks Farooq. It's very complex issue. I really need 45 minutes. But let me answer in 5 minutes saying that.
Okay.
Very broadly, in America and some Western countries, there are scholars, non-Muslim, say that don't criticize Muslim for that. Respect their tradition. They have the tradition of writing manually. No need for critical analysis. I think this is wrong because not to take printing press for 300 years was wrong. First, we should agree on this. Can you imagine a society today which refused to take internet for 300 years? And the result of not taking printing press was devastating. How do we know? Because we have a booklet written by Ibrahim Mutafarrika in 1727. He submitted to the office of the Sultan saying that the Europeans using printing press, they have large libraries, many books. We don't have it. We have small libraries. And then we have to get it as soon as possible. And the Sultan and the Shaykhul Islam agree. And today, if writing manually is so good, why don't Muslims do it now? If you are honest, again, be consistent. If you say that Ahmet Kuru's idea about printing is wrong because printing is not important, okay, stop printing. Use your hand writing. That's one thing. We have to agree that it was a mistake. Printing is important. Every country today uses it. Second, then, if it is so important and the results are clear, because I calculate the number of books Ottoman published in after the printing press 18th century, estimate 50,000. In the same century, Europe printed 1 billion book. 50,000 versus 1 billion, 20,000 times more. The literacy rate estimated in Europe 31%, Ottoman Muslims around 1-2%. So it's bad. Why? So Mustafa's book, my book, give a background. First of all, there is no official ban with a farman, with a fatwa. Yeah, there was no document saying that we will not allow printing press. But the big background was that in the Ottoman Empire and many Muslim societies, they were so top down. If the Padishah, the Sultan, and the ulama did not initiate, there was no private entrepreneurship. In Europe, you know, Gutenberg was a German private entrepreneur. He got money from borrow money, opened the printing press. In the Ottoman Empire, Ibrahim Mutafarrika, the guy I just referred to, was a state officer. It was a state initiative. Everything top down. So we have to ask, why everything was so top down? Because the state didn't allow an independent merchant class, bourgeois class, economic entrepreneur class. This is the big problem. Not taking printing press is one implication, one reflection, tip of the iceberg. But then you can never say, oh, Muslim societies, that's how they are doing, they don't have strong merchant class. No. Fernand Braudel, the famous French historian of medieval economy, says Islam was very much promoting commercial activities. It was opposite of Christianity. Europe managed economic growth despite restrictions put by Christianity. But Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a trader. Muawiyah and many Mamluk leaders were traders. Trading and commerce was something noble in Muslim societies. We established the very foundation of global trade. The check we use today in English coming from Persian sheikh. And the merchants were funding. And Ibn Jahiz, the famous Arab literature of Baghdad, had a very good essay comparing a merchant and government officer. He said the merchant is like a king. He has his own property in Muslim society. But when it comes to the Ottoman Empire and many other Muslim authorities, the state held properties, control economy. It was the same in the Mamluks in Egypt. Therefore, no private economic entrepreneurship. That's why there was stagnation. That's why there was no printing opening. Then let me conclude by saying this. When Ibrahim Mutafarrika in 1727, as a convert to Islam, he grew up in Hungary as a Christian. It became a diplomat and say, in Europe it's full of printing press. What's wrong with Istanbul? Then he convinced the Prime Minister, Sadrazam of the Ottoman Empire. The Sultan was convinced. They came to Shaykh al-Islam. Shaykh al-Islam said, we only allow non-religious books printed. So imagine a society where everyone reads religious books. Madrasas teach religious books. If you don't allow religious books printed, what are they going to print? So Mutafarrika printed only Qamus, the dictionary, geography book, and one history book, few books. Then Europe was printing Quran Karim in Arabic and importing to Istanbul. Then finally in 1800 they say we permit tafsir and hadith and ilm hal and religious books be printed. 30 years later they finally allow Quran be printed. They never allow a Turkish translation be printed. Turks should wait the Republic 1924 to have a printed copy of the Quran's Turkish Ma'al translation. So this is how they put barrier on printing, and it was wrong. Just admit it. That's it. No need to deny.
So you mean the ulama was responsible for it? Because it was Shaykh al-Islam, right?
I love ulama. Ulama are great, but they make mistakes, right?
All right.
They are not perfect.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
They have a question from Facebook.
Okay. Go.
So I just read this question.
Yeah. Zero. You have to use the mic.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a question from Facebook. if we deny theocracy or Islamic authoritarian, how we can spread Islam or to have strength to different Islamic community?
How do
are
we?
you okay? You want
How
to repeat?
can we spread Islam and
If we deny theocracy or Islamic authoritarian,
how? If we deny, how can we spread Islam and?
or to have strength to defend Islamic community?
I see. So first of all, the idea of Islamic State, where is it truly imposed? First of all, you and I, we are not denying, we are not rejecting. If they want to bring, let them bring. And then in 50 states, where did they really do it? Is it Saudi Arabia? That's the biggest claim. They put everything in the flag and the whole system, Wahhabi, right? But today, MBS tried to change it. He tried to sideline ulama. He thinks that oil money will not be enough to sponsor ulama state alliance. I watched his interview, very long interview. He said that I cannot have tourism, etc. So, I think he has a problematic figure with Khashoggi murder and authoritarianism, but the Islamists should answer, what's wrong in Saudi Arabia? I didn't stop it there. Who stopped it there? In Iran, is this really a good regime where you have an Ayatollah Khomeini, Walayat Faqih, and then his system? And then when you look at 50 cases, where is it really implemented? They should answer. That's one thing. Second, about spreading Islam, when we look at Islamic history, two very active agents of spreading Islam are Sufis and the merchants. I went to Bosnia, as I said, and then we went to the historical Hanukkah, Tekke, where the dervishes, Sufis, came to spread Islam in the Balkans. In the Ottoman Empire too, Islam was not spread in Albanians and Bosnians by sword. It is the enemies of Islam generally say that your religion is spread by sword. No. Ottomans were taxing non-Muslims. The state didn't try to convert, maybe some individual, I cannot talk about 600 years. But the main trend was Sufis. And you know better than me how merchants spread Islam in Southeast Asia. And then which theocracy really spread Islam? And in today's world, if you want Ummah be strong, the way really is to produce intellectuals, scientists, economic entrepreneurs. Look, for example, if Muslims and Arabs want to have more influence in American politics, and then change U.S. foreign policy toward Israel and make U.S. foreign policy more neutral and protecting the rights and liberties and lives of Palestinians. I wrote, Palestinian lives matter. How is it possible? So the best way is really to be represented in the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. Congress, have money, because money is important in campaign financing. So globally, the question asks, how can Muslims be stronger? I think we need to be more present in scientific realm, economic realm. That's an important way of making Muslims stronger.
Yeah. This is a very important question. Actually, I agreed to your answer to this particular question. I still remember when I was younger, when I was about 18 before I entered medical school, friends of mine, because I was a student activist. So friends of mine, I mean, they were asking that why did I want to pursue medicine? Because medicine would require you to spend time reading books and attending classes and seeing patients and stuff. Like your work, your Islamic work would be hampered. So I told them that to me, I believe that in order for you to advance Islam is for you to become someone like a doctor, for example. Then you can present Islam in a better way rather than becoming just a scholar and ustaz or something like that. That's what I believe, and I believe that our anesthetists here would have a similar idea or similar response to it. But yeah, I think I agree to you that, you know, like we have to produce more intellectuals, more scientists, you know, more people to be seen in the world and to be seen as you know, very progressive ummah rather than you know, looking down towards Muslim, like being poor, being uneducated, impoverished, and so on. Yeah,
I agree. One of the jokes in my talks, people laugh in the US. My wife thinks that my jokes are not funny.
okay.
Therefore, I try to avoid. But this is very funny joke. People laugh. I said, when a member of ulama die in Turkey, elsewhere, they say, alimin ölümü, alemin ölümü. The death of alim means the death of the universe.
Yeah.
But when I die, nobody will say that, because social scientists die. Who cares? But this is a bad thing, because we should care about and respect and give importance to every field of science. Otherwise, how are we going to be influential? If the question is, how can we be strong? What do you mean by strong today? Without science, without intellectual creativity?
Yes, you're right.
Hopefully, some people cry after us.
Yes.
You and I, even though we are not regarded as members of ulama, some people will cry.
Yeah, Dr. Friday.
Assalamualaikum.
You want to have a mic?
Just nearby.
You okay? Aizu, can you hear?
It seems like from your writings and your discourse that the reform, whether we need to Islamicize or introduce passive secularism whatsoever, within the realm of institution or authority or policy or governance, rather than from the grassroots. That's roughly that I get it from your books. But paradoxically and ironically, if we look forward now, as for we entering 2024 now, is the year of elections, there is rise of populism and right-wing politics, whereby they utilize the racial identity or maybe religious identity. You see all over across the world, from Philippines, Israel, India, Brazil. Then of course you are worried about those who are riding on religious popularism, but it's a force that you cannot avoid. It's happening everywhere, even in Malaysia, that politicians would survive on riding on popular religious issue, whether it's totally false or fabricated claim. That's the concern now, whether we are talking about Islamization, about secularization. Like our brother said, in minority Muslim country, it seems like they don't care. No, I've seen youngers in UK now being indoctrinated by Hizbut Tahrir. They are very keen about to re-establish the Khalifah and so on. So the same things happen everywhere. So it seems like from down to top now, there is rise of right-wing politics that utilize and riding on religious populism. In our context, we might say they are in the very extreme way, but that's what worrying me. That's what worrying me. So another issue, what we are discussing here, is a discourse that it seems like we in Malaysia, we are experimenting what's the best principle and model that may suit us, because we cannot simply adopt Turkish or Egypt model or Saudi model, because for example, you're coming from Turkey, your nations or society are quite homogeneous, 90% maybe Turkish, but in Malaysia only 60% Malay plus multi-religious and multi-ethnicity, and there is difference between East Malaysia and Borneo Malaysia, there is different fabric altogether. So it's something challenging in our context. So I would like to hear your opinion on this rising of right-wing politics utilizing the religious popularism that might hamper what we are discussing today. Thank you.
Thank you for this very complex question, and let me refer to our upcoming events again. So tomorrow we'll have an event on civilization, then on Monday the book launch on Nottingham University, then on Tuesday we'll have a whole panel on populism. I will try to elaborate there. But since you ask here, let me briefly say that, first of all, as I said, every country has its own context. Yes, Turkey has 98% or maybe a bit lower Muslim majority. But there are other countries like United States where I came from, here. Although I was born in Turkey, I live in the US 25 years. But there's a big debate now because United States now has about 50% Protestant, 20% Catholic, 20% no religion, 10% other religions. And California, where I live, the white people will be minority in 10 to 15, 20 years. And how to manage diversity? That's a big question everywhere. In the United States, there's a big debate what to do. And some of my Muslim friends are afraid, and other non-Muslims are afraid too. But on the issue of populism, the danger is not simply populism plus religion, because there is one more element in the formula, which is nationalism. So when you combine populism, religion and nationalism, then you really have an equation for authoritarianism. Historically, nationalism and religion were competitors. When it emerged in Europe, nationalists were for localization, whereas Catholic Church was for continental leadership. Catholic Church was saying Latin, the others say local languages, and same in the Muslim world. Islamists were for Ummah, Arabic, more religious identity. Nationalists in Turkey, Egypt as well, for local languages, local leadership. But now, everywhere we see the combination of nationalism and religion, and that is something really exclusionary. So, I will tell in the panel, but now let me tell this. What is the lesson for Muslims? If you are a majority, this is good for you, maybe. But I am a minority in a Christian majority country. It's not good for me. If Christianity and nationalism emerge in US, how am I going to leave that country? Same question by Muslims in India under Modi. Same question for Muslims in Russia. Same question for Uyghurs, Muslims in China. Same problem for Arabs, Muslims, even Arab Christians in Israel. If there is no equal citizenship, how are these people going to be free? So I'm asking Muslim majority societies, think about Muslim minorities too. We should not ignore Muslim minorities and concern about the rise of global authoritarianism. It will be primarily negative for Muslim minorities.
Yes, do you have any one or two last questions before the close session? Sister, anything?
I have questions.
Yeah, do you want to use the mic?
No, I don't like cameras. I'll ask.
Okay, can you ask question? Just ask question. There's no camera on your face.
Camera only recording us.
Okay. I don't know how to explain. I think I've heard several interpretations that when Quran was first transmitted, the terms Iqra was even though it's right now it literally means read, but some interpretations refer Iqra as reads your surroundings. Read doesn't mean reading books, because at that time there wasn't books. But why at that time, when the books printing wasn't introduced, the human's character was flourished. But right now, even though there's so many philosophical works was introduced, was discussed, thousands of books, millions of books was produced, but the how do I say, human's character is not developed. I mean, I don't know how to phrase this question. Yeah, but I mean at that time the terms Iqra means reading your surrounding. I've heard several interpretations. It doesn't mean reading books.
Yeah.
And at that time also, there's no printings, there's no books was transcribed, books was written. So, but then how human is able to flourish at that time? But then when at this time, at the time that we, at this age where there's so many books, there's so many types, knowledge, dispersion of knowledge, but then humans are become morally corrupt. Could it be that the problem is not on the printing? Could it be like something else?
So first of all, if you think Muslims at that time look at some verses of the Quran, that's why they didn't take printing press, I think you give too much credit to Muslims, as if they take Quran very seriously. No, they don't. For example, what is the longest verse in the Quran Kareem? The longest verse in the Quran is about agreements, and asking, even ordering Muslims to make agreements in each other written. Financial contracts should be written.
Al-Baqarah.
Yes, and Al-Baqarah. And certain Muslims only took the idea that one man, two women witnesses, but the main message is that make financial agreements written. And according to certain historical studies, even in the Ottoman Empire, even urban areas, it was less than 15% of the agreements were written, because we have the archive of people coming to court accusing each other, and the qadi asked, where is the written agreement? They say it was a verbal agreement, we didn't write it. So until modern times, Muslim never made majority of agreement written. Why didn't take the Quran seriously? Another example is that I think Maida, the verse says that a mu'min shall not kill a mu'min illa bi khata, if only mistake. So how can Muslims are killing each other? It's not mistake, on purpose. Anyhow, so I don't want to deal with, but the idea that Muslims take the Quran very seriously, therefore they did certain things, very optimistic. Historically, there are clear verses. For example, the verse you refer to, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم. So the verse referred to qalam, and then about writing. Why didn't Muslims learn how to write if they take the verse so seriously? That's the question.
Thank you, Ahmet. Ustaz?
هل يمكن السؤال بالعربية؟
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
البعض يقول
هذا ممكن.
طيب، قرأنا أن البعض يقول أنك لا تعرف شيئا من الإسلام. هل
هذا خطأ.
هل يمكن لك أن
غير صحيح.
عن قصتك في
أولا
اللغة العربية وعلوم إسلامية؟
نعم، أولا درست اللغة العربية في دمشق شهرين، ولكن صعب جدا التكلم باللغة العربية الآن. عفوا أرجع إلى اللغة الإنجليزية. So your question is well taken because they criticize me. My clear answer is that please look at the bibliography in the book, the not dipnotes in Turkish, the footnotes, and then see how the book engage in debate by referring to Ghazali, Mawardi, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Khaldun, modern scholars. And the second and last thing I want to say about the Arabic translation of the book. If some readers, critics, if they are able to read Arabic, I challenge them to look at the book's Arabic version, where I work with the translator. For every quote, we look at the original Arabic source. Sometimes my translator find quotes of Ghazali in Ihya Ulumuddin wrong, then we went back and find the correct one. Or Al-Iqtisad fil I'tiqad, Ghazali's book on Aqidah, we look at and find the sources. Or Ibn Taymiyyah's book, Siyasat-i Shari, we look at the original source. And then the Arabic version of this book has the references to many Islamic sources. The English version has sometimes referring Arabic, sometimes taking the English from the English translation, which is more appropriate way scientifically. So that's my brief answer. Thank you.
عليهم أن يردوا على تحدياتك.
شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا.
Thank you, Ustaz. Jazakallah khairan. Anyone else? Or we can close the session. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof. I think it was very enlightening and very happy to have you at my humble abode over here. Inshallah, we'll meet some friends tonight and we have further discussion. And looking forward for your event tomorrow at Gerak Budaya with Rashidi and his friends.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Let's direct my friends.
Inshallah, yeah. So before we close the session, we have our artist here by the name of Hafizan Halim.
Oh, mashallah.
You see all the drawings here in my house?
Oh my God.
Basically, I used to say that, my house is the gallery of Hafizan Halim.
Thank you.
All the paintings here are by him, by Hafizan Halim.
Yeah.
So he would like to give you a kind of a gift for you to bring back to...
Just one sentence before his performance. Thank you for the hospitality. As you see, I'm a humble person with very moderate ideas. I don't see what is controversial, especially on the Facebook. When I saw the criticism, I showed my wife. And we are surprised that people keep saying, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi rajiun. In Turkey, you say it when someone is dead. And then my wife said, Ahmet, I'm very worried. What do they mean, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi rajiun?
Okay, Hafizan, come. You want to open up your drawing as well? Painting?
I want
He wants to
open and see how
how
is it look, because there is
you have to frame it yourself.
there is some of
When
your
you-
words inspire me to do this kind of calligraphy in that kind of shape. If you notice, what is it?
Oh, it's like Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi.
Actually,
It-
it look,
oh,
it
can
look
I have a
like
look?
Turkish.
Oh.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Oh my
So,
God, you are
because I noticed when you share about your presentation, you use the word stagnation.
Yes.
In Malay, they call it genangan or genang, which there is water, they are not moved.
Oh.
So
I see.
the idea is
He went to Turkey as well.
This reminds me many things. Very, very deep meaning.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Hope
so
will
much.
Love it.
Yeah, I will keep it. Thank you so much.
You go back and frame it.
I should.
Yeah, like that. Yep.
Then we'll send you the photo.
Okay.
And I thank on behalf of Zainab, Yusuf, Yunus, the whole family of mine.
Can we take a photo together?
Yeah.
Doctor.
You want to come here or something like that? Yeah.
Okay.
Right. You're too tall for.
Okay, Prof, can you see the camera? Okay. 1, 2, okay. One more. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.